You think you're lazy. You're not. You delay the most important work of your life, and then you blame yourself for it. That's the trap. Because the story you've been told about procrastination, the one about discipline, willpower, and just doing it, is wrong. Not incomplete. Wrong. This is how .96, where we don't fix you, we decode you. The threat detection system. Close your eyes and picture this scenario. It's quiet. The document is open. The cursor is blinking. You know this matters. You've known for 3 weeks. And yet, your chest tightens slightly. Your thoughts start layering over each other. And your hand is already reaching for your phone. That moment is not laziness. That moment is a threat response. Your brain does not evaluate importance first. It evaluates threat. Not physical danger, emotional danger, fear of failing, fear of not being good enough, fear of discovering, with certainty, that you have limits. Emotion moves faster than logic. By the time your rational mind speaks, your hand is already on the phone. The amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. Deep inside your brain sits a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Think of it as an overprotective guard dog. Its job is ancient, simple, and brutally effective. Reduce discomfort immediately. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the rational planner, is trying to calculate long-term outcomes. It's building a case for why this work matters, why future you will be grateful. But here's the structural problem. The amygdala reacts in milliseconds. The prefrontal cortex needs time. So before logic even finishes its first sentence, relief has already arrived. And that relief releases dopamine. Your brain just completed a learning loop. Task equals tension. Avoidance equals relief. Relief equals reward. You didn't choose laziness. You ran a conditioning program. And every time you run it, the loop gets stronger. The modern amplifier. If this were just about tasks, it wouldn't hit so deep. But it hits deep because the modern world pours gasoline on the circuit. You live in a state of constant stimulation, infinite scrolling, infinite comparison, economic instability, AI anxiety, a culture that measures your worth in output. Your nervous system is almost never fully calm. And chronic low-level stress does something specific. It lowers your threshold for emotional discomfort, which means tasks that require vulnerability, uncertainty, or effort feel bigger than they actually are. You're not experiencing a discipline failure. You're living inside a stress-sensitized avoidance loop. The temporal disjunction. Here's something that makes this even more structural. Neuroscience research using fMRI has shown something unsettling. When we imagine our future self, the part of the brain that activates is the same part that activates when we imagine a complete stranger. Let that land. When you delay a task, you are not saving it for later. You are dumping it on someone else, a stranger who happens to share your name. Present you gets the relief. Future you pays the debt. This is not laziness. This is a failure of empathy for your own future. And it is built into the architecture of the brain. The 4 archetypes. Procrastination is not one thing. It fractures into 4 distinct psychological patterns. The perfectionist delays to protect ego. If you never truly begin, you can never truly fail. Failure gets blamed on lack of time, not lack of ability. The avoidant struggles with low self-efficacy, feels overwhelmed, cleans the desk, does everything except the actual work. The arousal seeker waits for the deadline adrenaline, claims to work better under pressure. Research shows this is consistently false. The result is higher cortisol and lower quality output. The decisional, paralyzed by choice, analysis without execution, waiting for the perfect option while every option quietly expires. What your body is paying. We usually talk about procrastination as a productivity problem. It is also a health problem. Chronic procrastination means living in a state of background dread. The task is always there, unfinished, radiating low-level stress. That sustained stress response floods your body with cortisol. It weakens the immune system. It disrupts sleep. And research has linked chronic procrastination directly to elevated cardiovascular risk, including hypertension and heart disease. Dr. Fuchsia Sirois at the University of Sheffield found that chronic procrastinators reported significantly worse health outcomes, not from the tasks themselves, but from the unrelenting psychological weight of avoidance. The avoidance loop doesn't just cost you productivity, it costs you years. This is not motivation. This is neuroscience. We don't solve a neurological circuit with willpower. Willpower is just the prefrontal cortex trying to arm wrestle the limbic system. And the limbic system has millions of years of evolution on its side. Instead, we change the environment. We retrain the loop. Strategy 1. Emotional naming. Before you start, pause and ask yourself one precise question. What am I actually feeling right now? Not, I don't want to do this. Specific, precise. Is it fear of failure? Confusion about where to begin? Perfectionism masquerading as procrastination? This is not soft psychology. This is neuroscience. When you label an emotion with precision, activity in the prefrontal cortex increases, and amygdala intensity measurably decreases. Clarity is a biological intervention. The brain calms when it understands what it is afraid of. Strategy 2. Micro-exposure. Don't try to finish the task. Approach it. Open the file. Write one sentence, intentionally imperfect. Set a 10-minute timer with full permission to stop at the end. This is called exposure therapy at scale. The nervous system's alarm weakens through repetition. Every time you approach the task and nothing catastrophic happens, the threat signal fades slightly. Momentum doesn't come from force. It comes from safety. Strategy 3. Implementation intentions. Instead of vague goals, I'll work on the report today, use if-then architecture. If I finish my morning coffee, then I will open the document and write 3 sentences. This technique, developed by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer, increases follow-through by up to 300% in controlled studies. Not because it creates motivation, but because it removes the decision. You are outsourcing the choice to a preset trigger. The prefrontal cortex doesn't have to fight the limbic system in the moment. It already decided. Strategy 4. Self-compassion. This is the one most people skip, because it sounds like it's going easy on yourself. It's the opposite. Dr. Kristen Neff's research at the University of Texas demonstrates that self-compassionate individuals are more motivated, not less. They procrastinate less. They perform better under pressure. Because procrastination is driven by negative emotion, and self-criticism adds more negative emotion to the pile. It deepens the exact condition it claims to fight. When you forgive yourself for having procrastinated, not as an excuse, but as an act of clarity, you reduce the emotional charge attached to the task. And a less threatening task is a task the prefrontal cortex can handle. Final thought. Procrastination is not proof that you are incapable. It is proof that your brain is trying to protect you. The amygdala doesn't know the difference between a predator in the grass and a blank document on a screen. It just knows, this feels like danger. Let's not. But you are not your amygdala. You have a prefrontal cortex that can observe the pattern. Name the emotion, shrink the approach, and tell the guard dog, "I've got this." The next time you hesitate, don't ask, "Why am I so lazy?" Ask, "What is my brain trying to protect me from?" Because the moment you understand the mechanism, you are no longer trapped inside it. Understanding is power. That's how. 96.